Credit doesn't determine who you are. There is you've made some mistakes, you've made some bad choices, and that's a fact. But it doesn't have to determine who you are for the rest of your life. The goal for this episode for me is to guide people and give them some information. Now, this is going to be very direct. For this episode, I think it might make sense. Let's take the emotions. Let's take all of the amazing emotions we have and just set them aside. And we'll this is going to be more of a, let's just talk business and let's talk facts and what the real life situation is. Let's say you have 5 credit cards and they're all maxed out. That's straining. Think of your credit as a muscle, and it's maxed out right now and it's straining that muscle. Not having credit is just, think about it as a file folder, right? As your history. There's either barely anything in it or absolutely nothing in it. Your situation is just your situation. We can't change that, but what we can change is the steps we're going to take moving forward.
And help fix it.
Right? Welcome everybody to MotorCast. I appreciate you listening in and I appreciate you watching. As always, we got amazing content planned for you today. But first, I'd like to welcome my friend, partner, and guest, Homer Lopez. Give it up, everybody. Kenneth, I want you to add a bunch of people clapping in the background when I introduce Homer, please.
What's up, bro?
What's up, dude? Always nice to see you. Yet again with the amazing episode. Today, what are we going to be talking about today, Homer?
We're gonna talk about how to buy a car with bad credit or no credit at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And for whatever reason, bro, I almost don't even like to say bad credit. So just know I'm going to be referring to bad credit as less than perfect credit, and of course, no credit.
I wouldn't say I'm unable to say less than what?
Less than perfect.
You know, I'm gonna be stumbling.
That's the salesperson in me that wants to please everybody.
Less than perfect.
And doesn't want to. I feel bad, like, because I've been there. I don't want to talk down or sound like I'm talking down to anybody. So if you've got bad credit, in my eyes, it's just less than perfect.
Yeah. So that's something very interesting, because I think I would say 99% of the population has been there, and how judgmental can people get when they approach to a person that doesn't have a good credit at all, or how is gonna be the person feeling like, and the way that I can relate is that I'm gonna tell you a story. Yesterday I went to a barber shop, right? So when I sat on the chair with the barber, right immediately I saw. So I have 2 daughters. So my dream was to have a son, but I didn't have I didn't get a son. So every time that I see a dad with a little boy, I just start smiling, because that was my dream, right? So I saw.
And it still can be, Melissa.
No, we can't anymore. We can't anymore. The kitchen's closed already. So I saw that guy coming with his little child, like probably a year. So the little kid was holding his hand, perfectly normal, right? As soon as his dad opened the door, oh my God, the little boy was crying like he saw a monster, bro. So he was in the barber shop, and he sat with whatever barber, just because the kid wouldn't stop crying. So I just can relate how uncomfortable was that guy with his son. Everyone, like the rest of the barbers and everyone else, was laughing at the situation. They were making jokes about the situation, and the father was holding the little kid, and as soon, they were like rushing the haircut and all that stuff. And I just can feel the pain on or the uncomfort on the dad. So that's something that I can relate. That a little side story that happened yesterday, but it's uncomfortable to have a bad credit, right?
I mean, I definitely think it's uncomfortable. You know, it's one thing is, especially when you're buying the vehicle, it's not even a secret, right? The person that's working the sale with you, they know about your situation. The sales manager, whoever's helping you get approved, they know about the situation. Then the finance manager you meet later, they know about the situation. And then not only that, it just seems like you depending on the dealership, right? Like I believe, and you know, it's for the consumers really to tell me if I'm true in that belief, but I believe, like, a Motorvation, we're going to be respectful no matter what. And I just know it's not like that. Like, even when I'm scrolling through TikTok, just like the what is it called? Like a play the play that they have with like just the scenes that they create, that people create. And I know it's just a joke and it's not supposed to be harmful, but just like the scenes that they play about pretending to deal with a client that has less than perfect credit, like it's just like, it's a real scenario, you know what I mean? And it could be uncomfortable, you know, especially like if you have a lot of pride and confidence in yourself, you know. So like, just like the very first thing I want to just say to anybody watching this is, your credit doesn't determine who you are, in my opinion, right? You've made some mistakes, you've made some bad choices, and that's a fact. But it doesn't have to determine who you are for the rest of your life, right? And so I don't want you to, anybody watching this, I don't want you to deal with somebody that is making you feel any type of way based on that situation. And two, I don't want you to get down on yourself. I want you to understand that that is your real situation right now, and that is a fact, but it doesn't have to be like that. And I don't want anybody listening or viewing this that has less than perfect to get down on themselves or be in that situation, because you can't change it overnight.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I would the goal for this episode for me is to guide people and give them some information. Now this is going to be very not like maybe straight to the point, but very direct. And for this episode, I think it might make sense. Let's take the emotions, let's take all of the amazing emotions we have and just set them aside. And this is going to be more of a, let's just talk business and let's talk facts and what the real life situation is.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because yes, we're talking about bad credit, but we're also gonna talk about someone that doesn't have a credit at all.
Yeah. So and just to give you an example, that's somebody who just turned 18. That's somebody like me. I think all the way up to like I was 21 or 22, I had no credit. I never had a credit card. I never financed anything. So I was a 21-year-old, and I still had no credit. That's somebody who just moved to the States. That's somebody, pretty much, if you've never used your credit before, that's your situation, where you don't necessarily have bad credit, but you just can't prove to a financial institution if you're going to be somebody who they can trust with money or they can't trust with money.
And that particular someone that just moved to the States, I deal with that. I had the opportunity to be dealing with that, and that's something very uncomfortable too. Like, it's basically like not having credit at all. But it's not just because, okay, I came and started from scratch from Honduras to United States, right? So we were speaking the other day with Michael. Shout out to Michael from Taylor Playbook. And he's from, long story short, he's from Canada, moved to United States, and he has his business and all. But he faced that same situation.
Yeah,
right.
And it doesn't have to be just somebody the commonly is thought about as somebody who's an immigrant and maybe doesn't know the language and things like that. But no, it could be a full-on adult that is thriving in life, that just lived in another country, right? And you just haven't established that credit in the United States,
right? So yeah, that's something very, very, very interesting about this country. I don't know if every country works like that, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
I face it on my own. It is very uncomfortable, to be honest, because I mean, thinking I'm over 30 already, and
how old are you? No. Huh?
And
I don't know if you've seen, this is just a side story, and we could cut this out later if we need to, but there's a podcast that Kevin Hart is doing with I forgot his name, but it's the guy who plays Iron Man.
Yeah, I know.
He says like I forgot how old he says that, like I just turned 50.
I'm 50.
And damn. And then he was like, what? He's like,
what do you say like that?
Damn. He said, I just said damn. I was super damn. That's a great life you live, right?
Yeah, I saw that one, bro. That's hilarious. I remember that. And no, we're not gonna cut it. It has to be on the episode. So since the beginning, what is bad credit?
All right, so bad credit is pretty much, in short, if you have less than perfect credit, you haven't proved to the institutions you've borrowed money from that you can be trustworthy with loans. So, like for example, examples of less than perfect credit is if you've had a vehicle before, and obviously I understand life happens to everybody. Let's say you bought a vehicle and for whatever reason, the payments weren't made on it. It could be that it wasn't your fault. Let's just say that the vehicle broke down, you sold a lemon, whatever the situation is. On paper, you just didn't make the payment,
Mm-hmm.
right? There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You just didn't make the payment. The vehicle gets repoed. That's a situation where you have less than perfect credit. Or let's say that you are making the payments, but you're continuously 30 days late, 60 days late, 90 days late. All that is getting reported, right? Every time you're late on a payment, that's getting reported. That's less than perfect credit. Let's say you have a situation where you can have less than perfect credit even when you pay things on time. It's like, let's say you have 5 credit cards and they're all maxed out, right? That's straining. Think of your credit as a muscle, and it's maxed out right now, and it's straining that muscle. So that could be a situation, depending on where you started with your credit, that is less than perfect right now. It could be even simple situations like I know a lot of technicians, they finance tools off of the Matco or Snap-on truck. If you haven't paid them back, right? Anytime you're given an opportunity to make a payment and it's going on your history, and you either don't make the payment or you miss your payments or you're always late, that's all getting reported. And that's how you get into a situation where you have less than perfect credit. I've also seen situations where it's happened due to, medical bills and things like that. But focused on buying a car, when you're buying a vehicle, they're pulling specifically, it weighs more how you've paid other things in the past, right? Especially vehicles. If you, let's say you've made a lot of bad decisions about one thing or not made bad decisions. Let's say you had situations happen where you couldn't make certain payments, but you've always made your car payment. That's gonna show, right? There's many things that'll be on that muscle or that credit history that determine exactly what your score is gonna be.
Okay, and obviously we spoke about it a little bit already, but what is not having credit?
Not having credit is just think about it as a file folder, right? As your history. There's either barely anything in it or absolutely nothing in it. So like, for example, I was 2021 and I had nothing, not a credit card, not a bill. Maybe I had a bill. I think I had like a T-Mobile or Sprint or something on there, but that's the only thing I had on there. But let's say you're 18, 19, 20, you get a credit card. That's on there. Maybe you get 2 credit cards. All that means is it's very thin file, and maybe you have a $300,000 credit card or whatever, and you've shown that you've made good payments on that. You can even have a credit score. Not having any credit doesn't mean that you don't have a credit score. Not having any credit, all it means is you don't have enough history, right? You don't have enough history for somebody to determine, okay, you've done great with the $300 or $1,000 credit card that we've given you, but I don't know how you're going to do with a $10,000 or $15,000 vehicle, right? And just to give an idea what is less than perfect credit, I'm sure that there is specific details and measurements and Credit Karma's, for example, range is very different than what your Capital One app might show, than what your Amex app might show, whatever the case is. But for me, the way I look at it is like 620 is kind of the line. 620 and less is kind of when you start getting where I kind of start describing it as less than perfect credit. In the 550s or less, hey, definitely there's been some things that have happened. You've been in some situations, maybe mistakes were made. And if it starts with a 4, and I've even seen a credit score, believe it or not, the lowest credit score I've ever seen is a 396. Anything that's 550 or less, like, let's just be realistic. You've got bad credit. You know what I mean?
Okay. What do you think are some obstacles that people are gonna get when having a bad credit?
And as we talk through the obstacles, I kind of also want to talk about the solution to that obstacle too. So, again, focusing on buying a vehicle, right? One of the obstacles you're gonna have is you're probably going to need more of an investment up front, more of a down payment.
Okay.
You're probably not gonna get approved for as much of a vehicle. You're probably gonna have less choices on the kind of vehicles you're gonna buy. You will have a higher interest rate as compared to a prime loan. Let's say the dealer you're doing business with, they're gonna have to pay more fees to get your loan approved than somebody with better credit. I mean, it's tons of obstacles that you could have. And through all those obstacles, I think the main place where people could more succeed is just being realistic. All right. It's just kind of honing in on what the actual situation is. I'm not really emotional about it, but I almost feel empathetic or sympathetic to the people I meet that it's like, I don't want to call it like a chip on your shoulder, but it's like, let's just take the chip off the shoulder. Let's just be humans, right? It's obviously some stuff on your history. That muscle has been flexed to a certain extent where it's not strong as it once was. Unfortunately, I see a lot of people that are in that situation where they're not realistic about the situation. I can't tell you how many times clients with less than perfect credit want to buy $30, $40, $50, $60,000 vehicles. You know, it's a very, very, it's almost like an uncomfortable pattern. And all that lets me know is there's not enough information out there, right? That, or there is, and people are not listening or taking into account. When you're in a situation like that, you pretty much have to reprove yourself to institutions saying that you are somebody who can be trusted. And you want to bite off a little bit, something a lot smaller than what you can chew, right? When you're rebuilding your credit, when you're in a like credit rehabilitation program where you're trying to rebuild and things like that, that is not the right time to overstretch yourself, right? It is not the time to say, hey, okay, I'm gonna sign up for $500, $600, $700, $800 a month payments, right? That's really the time where you need to take a step back and say, I need to settle. Right. For a lack of better terms, you need to settle because you haven't proved yourself, or you've had situations where you can't prove yourself right now. And a similar case with no credit, right? And it's not like you haven't made any decisions, right? Somebody with no credit could have a thriving business, like we said. They could have all their ducks in a row, and budget may not really be an issue, but it's I've never. It's let me put it in very simple terms. I always borrow $5 from my friends, but today I'm gonna go ask all of my friends for $100 each. That's a big step, right? We're jumping 20 times the original amount, and I haven't proved to you that I'm gonna pay you back $100. Yeah, I pay you back $5 every single time, just like clockwork. But how am I gonna pay the $100 back? Right? I just haven't proved it to you, and even though you love me, right? It's just like, hey, I'm just not sure that you've proved that to me.
Right, and specifically like you put it, like if you ask the money to each of your friends, credit is like that. They all have the ability to see where do you owe.
Exactly, right? Like if I'm borrowing from you and John and Stacy and blah blah blah, and imagine you guys all have a group chat, right? And you guys are all communicating. Hey, Rahim hit me back. Rahim hit me back. Rahim hit me back. Now imagine I borrowed $100 from all of you guys, and Homer is in the group chat like, yo, Rahim only gave me $25 back. John is saying, yo, Rahim didn't give me nothing. Stacy is saying, oh, actually he paid me the whole 100. You know what I mean? And everybody can see that. So when buying your next vehicle, I mean, there's a ton of steps and I feel like this has been kind of gloom and doom. So I want to get to the positivity part of it. But if you have less than perfect credit, I mean, there's a ton of things you can do to get some help. So number one, and it's kind of always my go-to, figure out who you're doing business with. Don't stand for anybody talking down to you. Don't stand for anybody demeaning you. Your situation is just your situation. We can't change that, but what we can change is the steps we're going to take moving forward.
And help fix it.
Right? So if you need a vehicle, right, it starts with you, but let's be realistic with exactly what we need. Right now, having a vehicle may be better than not having a vehicle at all, right? Maybe having a vehicle that wasn't your number one choice, but is reliable, it's economical, it's going to have low monthly payments, it's going to be really easy to finance. Maybe that's more important right now than getting exactly what all your friends are going to want to ride in, or whatever the case is, right? Or maybe it has nothing to do with that. Maybe it's just what you're going to feel more comfortable or confident in, right? Let's rebuild. Having less than perfect credit is all about rebuilding, making smarter choices, making better choices. The good news is there's tons of dealerships that specialize in just that. I'm not going to knock a buy here, pay here, because I feel like there may be a time and place for it. But ideally, if you're going to be making an investment that's as big as a vehicle, you want to make sure that they're going to, number one, report to the credit, and number two, it's going to report to all three bureaus.
Okay, and let me ask you this now. Do we have any programs at the dealership or different dealerships that are going to be facing with or open to help people like this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think
people in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of dealerships have programs for it. I'm not sure I mean, there are definitely dealerships out there that don't have programs for it, but in simple terms, let me just explain how different it is dealing with two or three different types of clients, right? We have Homer. I'm going to use you as an example. Homer has good to great credit. He's buying a $20,000 Toyota Camry.
Mm-hmm.
For me to get that loan approved and bought by the bank, I might not have a fee, right? The bank is not charging me anything to do that loan,
Mm-hmm.
right? But for a client that has less than perfect credit, I've seen them charge as much as $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 just to do the loan.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that for a second, right? Let's say selling you a vehicle that's $20,000. Let's say I bought it for $19,000, right? When I sell it to you, I make $1,000. When I sell that same vehicle to somebody with less than perfect credit, I lose $2,000,
Wow.
right? And a lot of people don't understand that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's not so much the program, but who are the dealers actually willing to do that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm not saying we're taking a loss on every vehicle that we're selling to somebody with less than perfect credit. All I'm saying is there are bank fees associated,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I can't just raise the price on you, right? That's illegal. I can't just raise the price on you just because you have less than stellar credit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's me making the decision of, hey, I still want to do business with you, and this is the cost of doing business with you. So first and foremost, right, who are you going to do business with? Are they actually wanting to help you? Or are they just looking at you as a number in a sale? And it'll be pretty easy to figure out. You'll be able to figure it out just from the communication with the salesperson, whether or not a sales manager is willing to talk to you, the kind of service they're giving you. It'll be very, I mean, you if you're watching and you're listening to this, you've been in a situation where you can tell how the other person's treating you. No matter your situation, I would say don't settle for anything less than amazing customer service.
And from the dealership perspective, what are the obstacles that we can get other than that fee that you were mentioning?
So the other obstacles are like, it's if everything is based on risk, right? So let's say the client is a risk based on their profile. The vehicle also cannot be a risk. You can't have two negatives, right? So the vehicle has to be less of a risk. So an example, a 7 or 8 year old BMW with 100,000 miles, very risky vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Not with a risky client, right? Especially if you've already haven't proved that, hey, I'm gonna pay back my loans before and things like that. What's gonna happen when this BMW breaks down? It's not a matter of if, it's when. It's got 100,000 miles on it. It's almost 10 years old, right? So the other obstacle is, okay, it's got to be something maybe 5 years old or a little bit newer, not too old. Less than 100,000 miles would be awesome, right? Because then you have so many different banks that you can actually ask for that credit approval. But the obstacle there in itself is, what I find most of the time, the client being open to all kinds of vehicles, right?
Right.
I can't. It's most likely if you're in a situation where you have to reestablish yourself, it's not going to be a luxury. It's usually not going to be a luxury vehicle. Not saying it's impossible, but it's usually not going to happen.
That's one question because you just said that there are some vehicles, right, that both or it's either the person or it's either the vehicle that is going to be risky, but we cannot have both. Are they any specific brands that we're not going to get loan for people with less than what?
Less than perfect credit? Is there any that is just not going to be approved? I would say that answer is probably no, because then the question comes up of the initial investment, commonly referred to as a down payment. Enough money can change any answer most of the time, you know what I mean? But most people in that situations also, the other obstacle is they don't have a ton of investment up front. Most of my clients with less than perfect credit, they're working with anywhere between $800 to $2,500, right? So the vehicles that would work better are Toyotas work great, Hondas work great, Hyundais, Kias work great, Nissans work great. Pretty much not a super luxury brand, something that's going to be reliable. And most importantly, right, think about apples to apples. You have a 2020 Camry with 50,000 miles, and you have a 2020 BMW with 50,000 miles, or Mercedes with 50,000 miles. What do you think costs less?
Oh, the Camry.
Camry all day long, right? So you can get a way newer vehicle with less miles for a lower cost.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's why it's got to be a vehicle that is less risky.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. Something that you said that I've never heard and probably is slightly out of topic, what is a prime deal or a prime?
A prime deal is good to great credit and better, right?
Okay.
So like
And I just want to ask the question because I just want anyone to know. Probably you are very professional. That's something that I admire with you, but not everyone's gonna understand.
Yeah, so a prime deal is good to great credit.
Okay.
Right? It's gonna be, if I had to put my like the nail on a score, 650 and better.
Okay.
You know what I mean? For some people it's 675 and better. But I think 650 is kind of where I personally, right, with no finance institution in mind, just me personally, 650 and better. We just have a lot more options. The amount of banks that want to do business with them, the amount of vehicles that they're looking to purchase, or the kind of vehicles that they'll be approved for, and just the fact of like, think about really what it says to have that credit score. If you have good to great credit, you've proven that you can pay vehicles, and if you can prove that you pay vehicles, the odds are you have probably a little bit more of an initial investment up front too, right? So it's just like everything, like it's all about like the patterns and how it goes, in my opinion.
And one thing that I was thinking recently, we were talking about someone that we know that for some scenarios in his life he went down, and then he went back up. So I can tell that there's people that have probably bad credit. Like let's say they had their business and they went all in on one project and they lost it all, and that's the reason that we had, or that person has bad credit. So is there anything that you will recommend in order to avoid getting into a bad credit?
Yeah, I mean, I want to just touch on that for a second too. You know, like I said earlier in the episode, less than perfect credit, situations happen too. You went all in on your business. You went through a divorce. You got sick and couldn't pay your bills and you couldn't work. You were laid off during COVID, right? There's so many life situations that can happen. And again, I sympathize with you and I empathize with you too. And I'm sorry that happened to you, but your credit score, all it shows, it's not a reflection of who you are as a person. It's just a reflection of how you pay people. That's all it is, in my opinion.
Right. Okay. For me, this episode is short, but I have a lot of information I didn't have. Do you have anything else that you would like to ask?
I just feel like we didn't really go into the solutions of it.
Oh, okay.
So I'll just kind of freestyle for a little bit. So if you have less than perfect credit or no credit, you want to start off with number one, who you're going to do business with. That's going to be super important. Make sure you're getting the best service, things like that. Be very realistic with your goals, right? Do you just need a vehicle right now? Or do you need the newest vehicle that's top of the line with all the features and things like that? Or do you just need to get back and forth to work? Or do you just need to rebuild your life right now? Or do you just need a vehicle for your kid or whatever it is, right? Being open in what you're looking for is going to help open a ton of doors for you. And I mean, I'm going to want to work with you no matter what. My team's going to want to work with you no matter what. But for other dealers that maybe don't share exactly our values, it's gonna want them to be more open with you and more likely to want to help you too, just seeing that you're open. Have an initial investment ready, right? You want to put, not even you want to, but you want to make sure that you're getting into a situation where your monthly payments are affordable. So if hey, you're like, hey, based on my budget, I can't afford any more than $400 a month. Make sure that either the vehicle, the out the door numbers and things like that come into that payment, right? Or use money down to bring that payment down, right? And on average, just like pro tip, on average, every $1,000 finance is going to equal to about $20 a month.
Wow, that I didn't know.
Yeah, so about every $1,000 finance, let's say your monthly payments are $400 a month, $1,000 off the price or $1,000 cash down is gonna be about $380 a month.
Did you know that this is gonna be one short clip in TikTok for sure? Because I didn't even know that. That's super interesting.
Yeah, and it's almost embarrassing. I learned it not too long ago.
That's super nice.
And so far you've picked who you wanted. You've been very, very objective with your goals and realistic with your goals. I would say don't don't just fill out applications online and just ask people to get you pre-approved everywhere. And look, I've been there with you, and I know it's scary to you don't want to get judged. You don't want to be sitting there in front of people. It's easier to do it from, behind your phone and over the phone, and you don't have to have somebody. It's almost like that fear of getting denied. I know for me it was a real thing, and I can imagine it could be a real thing for anybody else. But as easy and tempting as it might be, don't just start shopping your credit. The last thing you want to do is just give irresponsible dealers an opportunity just to see if they can throw something against the wall. Have all of your documents ready, right? So far you've picked who you wanted, and you maybe have even found a vehicle that you want to get from them. Have all your documents ready. If you have less than perfect credit, you're going to need proof of income. If you're self-employed, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be 3 months bank statements, personal or business. In some cases, they might even need a tax return. But more often than not, just the bank statements will suffice. If you're a W-2 employee, you need at least your last 3 pay stubs. You want to make sure that you have all of those documents ready to roll. You need, for Georgia, you need a current driver's license or ID card. And one thing that I think gets skipped over a lot, or people don't think about, is you're going to need full coverage insurance to finance a vehicle. So just keep that in mind too, because that might be right. Let's say everything is done, you got your down payment, monthly payments work, everything is good. But now when you're calling insurance, they're like, hey, we need this much to get your policy started, right? So that's something that you can already do to be ready. And when you're rebuilding your credit, and again, there's many situations, right? We specialize in trucks, but we have all kinds of vehicles here. If you're in the working force and you really need a tool, right? Because there's some people that you might be in a situation, but that doesn't mean that you don't need a truck and you can pull your trailer with a Prius,
Right.
right? It's, you still need a truck. Maybe you don't need all the bells and whistles. Make sure you're working with a professional so you can share your goals with them, and they can help you achieve your goals. And just know at the end of the day, it's your decision, right? Don't let anybody just fast talk you or sweet talk you into what their plan might be. Just know at the end of the day, it's your decision, and just know, is this or is this not is going to work for you? Because at the end of the day, the last thing you want to do is sign up for a new loan when you've just made the decision of, hey, I'm going to rebuild my credit. You want to pay, what I would do, and it's tough, right? But let's say, let me just talk about Motorvation, right? So if you want to do business with Motorvation, if you're in it close enough where you don't mind making the drive or getting an Uber or need a ride from us or something like that, let's start there, right? Let's talk about your situation. What exactly do you need? Let's make sure that we are able to serve you. And just know, no matter what promises anybody is making, this is something we have to try. It's not guaranteed, right? Come into the dealership. Let's put some goals on paper. Let's see what the wants and needs are and why the wants and needs are exactly what they are. And then what we'll do is then we'll do a finance application. We'll submit it to a couple different lenders to see who is wanting to approve that loan. Once we have an approval, go over the numbers with the client. Show them some different options with either money down or monthly payments, things like that. And then at the end of the day, the client decides, hey, this is what makes sense for me, or this doesn't make sense for me. And you've got a vehicle. But let's say you want to do business with Motorvation or another reputable dealer and you don't live driving distance from them, right? Do the research on their reviews. Get the feeling, the vibe from them when you're talking to them on the phone. I'm a huge fan of like FaceTime and video calls. If they're not willing to kind of show themselves to you, maybe red flag, right? Maybe not a big red flag, maybe a little red flag, things like that. Make sure the salesperson's a professional, and if for some reason they just started or whatever the case is, talk to the sales manager. If you can't get on the phone with a sales manager, red flag, right? Little red flag. Talk to them about your situation. In that case, I can make sense of doing an online approval. And then just kind of follow the process from there. I would recommend just being honest with this is about you, and this is not about anybody else. Be honest with yourself about what's important to you, and don't let anybody convince you into doing something that you're not sure you want to do.
Okay, great. one last question, because as you were talking, it came into my mind. What if let's say that one person is right in the middle, or it's like what did you say, 650, or you're on average, or it's on the right, you're gonna be good, or you're gonna be bad. So what's your recommendation if they're trying to build, or not exactly build, but I don't know, get a vehicle, right? And what's your recommendation? When do they can actually allow anyone to run their credit? Because I know that once they run their credit, their credit, it might come down a little bit, correct?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just depending on the situation, right? Like, so for me, less than perfect credit is less than a 620, but 650 or better, I think is good to great credit. So if you have less than perfect credit, I mean, there's a ton of apps out there, right? You have CreditWise, you have Credit Karma, I think it's Credit Assessor. You have tons of apps out there to kind of see where you're at, but it's not so much a score as much as, again, the muscle.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen many times where, like, my sister is a fantastic example. Way before she had financed a car, way before any of those things, she had a great credit score, right? A strong credit score. But it doesn't mean that she had great credit. It still was kind of falling into that bucket of no history, right? So just because you have a super high score or a super low score, it's not just automatically based on the score you're placed into one of those buckets. It's really about the strength of the credit. Like, and I don't want to get so lost in the weeds because I'm not a professional when it comes to credit. I am a professional when it comes to financing vehicles and getting deals approved and providing great value and things like that. But it's if you've paid for every vehicle you've ever had, if you paid for your mortgage, but you have a lot of like medical bills and a lot of other stuff that's on your credit that's bringing your score down, or if your credit cards are maxed out or something like that, you're still going to have that score may not dictate the exact approval, right? Or let's say, again, you've never financed a vehicle, never had a mortgage, you have one credit card that's a $300 limit and your app says you're a 720. Probably not a 720, my guy. You're probably not a 720, my guy. On paper, right, you have that score, but it's again the history, that folder. How thick is that folder? How strong is that muscle?
Okay, it makes sense. So I just love this episode. I learned a lot.
I love it too, man, and I feel like
I can tell you look very passionate.
Yeah,
about this topic.
I didn't want to say it, you said it, but I would like to dive a little bit deeper into this topic based on comments that you leave on here on the reels or whatever. But I just feel like I want to help people. So if I can get some guidance on exact path that people need help, I would love to do that and just dive. Maybe we could just do an episode or a bunch of short reels or TikToks, just answering those comments. I don't want this to be like a doom and gloom. This is supposed to be educational and provide value. So I would love to do that. But let's say you have some specific questions, you can always email us at sales@motorvationtrucks.com. If you would like to chat with me, one of my finance managers or one of my sales reps about your situation and not necessarily you're not sure exactly what you want to do yet, but you just have some questions, you can call us 404-939-9010. But again, I want to recap. Your credit score is not a representation of who you are. It's just a representation of your credit history. This is not the end, right? There's still tons of solutions out there. Just have your own back, right? Be positive to yourself and just know that there is a way out of this situation. Be realistic with your goals, and it's just know that it's baby steps, right? It's called rebuilding for a reason. Just step by step, rebuild it back up. And I'm so happy to say, like, a ton. I mean, I'm so, like, as soon as I'm about to say this, like, there's just faces and names coming into my mind. There's so many people we've been able to help out that in our 13 years of business that, they started with not perfect credit, and now they can come into the store and just point at a vehicle and be like, that's the one, and we don't have to ask any questions, and we're rolling, right? You can get back there.
Great. All right. So, as I said, I'm very happy about this topic. So remember, people, you can watch us online, Motorvation Trucks, on YouTube, Motorvation Trucks, on Spotify, MotorCast, and follow us on our social media. You're going to find us everywhere. Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. You're going to find us as Motorvation Trucks. So great episode
Yeah,
today.
thank you guys so much. Remember to drop in the comments any specific questions we can help answer on a follow-up episode.
Great. Nice job, bro.